Here we go. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night. Welcome to the Fly With Us podcast. This podcast is bringing the art of conversation, self love, self care, mental health care and protection, life lessons, love lessons, and everything in between. Today, we're going to hit part 4 of our hip hop series. Hip hop, where do we go from here? We got a big live panel with people. We got some other people that still going to join us. So let's get right into that mindfulness minute. Pick your fence. What you got?
And I am Picket Fence. Understanding leadership is the mindfulness minute today. When conflict arises in my life, I take a step back to understand the situation. I place the burden on myself to understand the people in my life. Life becomes easier when you meet people where they are rather than where you think they should be. When we try to understand the other person first, we can work with them much more productively. This is true no matter the nature of the relationship or where we fall in the power hierarchy. Teachers should try to understand their students, and students should try to understand their teachers. Supervisors should try to understand their employees, and vice versa. Genuine leadership comes from a place of mutual respect, not from a place of controlling and manipulating. You may have one or more problem people in your life right now. Around these people, every conversation turns into an argument, and every little task becomes an occasion for grumbling. Ask yourself, what am I failing to understand here? Sit in silent, listening, genuinely searching for an answer. You may emerge with this experience with a slight shift in attitude, a small bit of insight that helps you to relate to those persons better. Word up.
Word up. So let's get into it, y'all.
Okay. The future of hip hop. Now, I'm going to quote as Dan Tress said last week. Most Def always talks about hip hop is going to be where the people are at. If hip hop is smoked out, then if the people are smoked out, hip hop's going to be smoked out. He also says, I have to ask myself where I am at. So where do we go from now when we talk about hip hop and the state of hip hop that it's in now? I'll let the Gemini go first.
Well, I'm sorry. Well, I always viewed it like if we know our history, or the better yet, I'll give an example. My son, he's 10 years old, and he's in the big, the new age hip hop. Me, I don't dip into it. I might have an ear for it to see, who I can pick, that's related to, my what I like and my choice. But I think everybody should be educated, to the history of it, at least to know, where they can point to, you know. But I just always thought about that, like let's say, you know, somebody, basically that can understand, people can understand each side of the story, both sides of the coin. If you know what I'm talking about, like
Hmm.
not really trying to, turn, turn it down, like try to understand it. Basically, that's what I'm trying to say. But if you know where you're going, you got to know your history first to know where you're going. So,
Word up. What about you, Deuce Tyrell? What do you think about the state of hip hop now and its future?
The state of hip hop for me, and you guys can hear me, right?
Yep.
Hmm.
Just making sure the camera is new. All right. So the state of hip hop for me right now, we're at the precipice of what I feel like is going to has happened with every other genre. I feel like hip hop has been. My kitchen's still in the background. I feel like hip hop has been in its infancy for far too long, and now it's getting to a point where it's maturing. where you're seeing more. Basically, we're seeing more and more subgenres come from that actual the genre of hip hop. So, I mean, and if I were to, my theory is there's different, since most of us, this generation millennials, we grew up on hip hop. We're the first generation to like grow up where it was always around, like always around. I want to say like kind of the tail end of Gen X and now millennials. Most of us, hip hop has been around our entire life. My mom told me she used to listen to LL Cool J when I was in the womb. So, but in any case, I think that we have our traditional hip hop, and that's gonna be your guys like Griseldas, your D Smokes, your Tobe and Wingways. And then you have your trap hip hop, you know, which is like your little babies, your Dirks, R.I.P. Young Dolph. That's like trap hip hop. That's where the streets is. And then you have like you also have hip hop where it's like that's where your Drakes, kind of your J. Cole's, your Wale's, your Big Sean's. That's where they live, where they can have hit songs on the radio that appeal to mass audiences, but at the same time they're still, you know, kind of like dope MCs at the same on the flip side. I mean, depending on, you know, your listening taste. So I think that we're at the principles of seeing how we saw rock and roll break off into, you know, you have the Norwegian rock, which is like dark heavy metal. You had your pop metal where they had the big hair, you know, that was like the Aerosmiths and the what's it, the movies, The Dirt, Motley Crue's, that kind of stuff. I'm what I see happening in hip hop now, a lot of people separate it, is I'm seeing it mature, and we're seeing a lot of people who are like older in age kind of like start to get it. Usually hip hop was a young man's game, but now we're seeing like D Smoke, who's 36, and like the guys, all the guys in Griselda are about 40. You know what I'm saying? They're just now like kind of taking off, even though traditionally you would need to be like in your early 20s, late teens, to be getting on. But now we're seeing a lot more people in their mid 30s, you know, get on because they focus on the genre, they focus on their genre and they lean into it. Sorry if I was long winded.
Oh, not at all, not at all. Good answer, good answer. Chekesha Bell, what do you think about the state of hip hop now and its future?
Peace, everybody. Well, the state of hip hop now, I'm feeling really optimistic right now because I'm noticing hip hop becoming a lot more expansive. It used to be just a young kids game where, like the gentleman before me, Duece Tyrell, was saying that it was a younger person's game where you would be like in your younger 20s and everything. And what my hope is for hip hop moving forward is to see a lot more maturity get into the game. Because what we end up seeing is people giving their expression for where they're at mentally and spiritually at that time. And we all know as we go through different phases in life, that tends to change throughout the years. Imagine the sounds that we would be hearing today if Biggie and Tupac had lived today and how they would have evolved mentally and the message that they would deliver today. We can see that with Master P, with all of the stuff that he was talking back in his day, and his conversation is completely different now. And so where my hope is now is that the older hip hoppers don't leave the game, but they stay in the game and continue to bring those gems, that wisdom to the game and bring that to the table. That's what my prayer is for hip hop moving forward. And not to say that there's anything wrong with all of the other styles and the different ways that people come in and at it. And even if it's not speaking to me, that just shows that everyone has their taste. But for us to bring in some more wisdom and some higher thinking is going to help to advance our generation a lot faster, in my humble opinion.
Word up. Lady Bounce, what say you?
Well, while I agree with everything that everybody has said, my as an educator, my hope is that some of these artists start to do more things outside of making music to let these kids know that the stuff they talk about is just talk, because my students are trying to live their lyrics. They don't even live their lyrics. You know, Lil Baby don't have a harem of 20 different chicks every night coming in and out his bed. In fact, he just had a really big blow up with his side chick and his baby mama. So you got two chicks, you know, you don't got 20. So but you're selling this dream and you're selling this lifestyle to these kids who think that that's how I gotta be, who they're thinking that this is all I can aspire to. So we owe it to, I say it all the time, we owe it to our youth to do better, to talk about better. If that's what you talk about in your lyrics, then so be it. But maybe you should go on some speaking tours or put out some videos and say, hey, I'm at home at night with my wife and my 4 kids. I'm really not out in these streets selling drugs like this. Because like I said, these kids are living their lyrics. And our kids are dying because they are trying to live these lyrics. Because they don't realize that it is just talk. They think that this is how these people are really living. And these rappers will get you messed up and get you paying all kinds of lawyers to get you out of trouble when they sitting in Beverly Hills somewhere chilling. And you down here in Slowboken, New Jersey, trying to live that same life, and you can't.
Word up. Like you said, I agree with pieces of what everybody said on the panel. And to follow up what you were saying about education, I do notice that a lot of kids are starting to think that they can live the lives that they hear in music, which may not be good for the community or for them, especially for themselves. A lot of them think that it is real life, and they aspire to have that life that they're hearing. Not that they aspire just to be well off and have nice things, but they aspire to do it through what they're hearing these guys say that they're doing. And I think that without balance, which we've talked about before, that can be problematic for the community if we don't have balance. Like we said on the previous parts to the series, that back in the day you would hear NWA, but then you would hear Tribe Called Quest right after that to give it some balance. And nowadays, at least far as on the radio, it's just like one song playing all day, all night, one song. And you have guys like Griselda, you have guys like Elo Kush, ID4 Wins, Jay Cyanide, the guys that could have as just much radio play as a Drake or a Cole or a Kendrick if you give them that outlet. And I think that that will bring balance and place us in a better place far as the future of hip hop if we have some type of balance.
I like that. I definitely think we need balance. So let me throw this question at you guys, which is kind of a no-brainer kind of question. But why is hip hop important to the black community, but even the world as a whole, but specifically to our black community? Why is hip hop important?
I'll go first on that one. Like we talked about too, that I say all the time is that you're talking about a people that was stripped of their culture, their religion, their fundamentals, and even their diets, their languages, stripped of life. When you think of life in the essence of your culture, your language, your family, your connectivity to your environment, stripped of all that. And hip hop was a re-emerging or a remix, a combining of what we lost and making it something new. So for me, on a personal level, that's why hip hop is important to the black community, because it's creating a culture that we lost, and we tap into those little findings of culture that we're able to do because everybody has the internet now. People are able to travel the world again, minus the pandemic, but people have taken those pilgrimages to Ghana, Nigeria, Kenya, Ethiopia, Eritrea, South Africa, and learned little pieces that we lost. And in the early 90s, late 80s, you saw that starting to be implemented in the music. And we all know music is a powerful tool when it comes to education. Our ancient cultures taught all of the studies together. Science, technology, music, language was all taught together and not as separate classes. So I think that's why it's important for the black community to me.
Oh, okay, cool. That's good, man. I might get a JLP tomorrow, man.
All right, who got next?
I need you to be quiet.
There you go.
You know, it's gonna get slow.
Um, he kind of like said everything I wanted to say, but pretty much I would say, just to like simplify, it's the epicenter of the reemergence of Pan Africanism. Basically, everything black. We didn't have a culture, so we made our own. and all of that is in spite of. And a lot of guys, it's in spite of, not, but it not a thing that we did that was given to us. It was in spite of all the adversity. All the adversity, we took our pain, we took our dancing and everything, and we put it all into, the music, the graffiti, the the DJing, which is still a huge part of hip hop. People don't really think it is. It totally is, because that's where they play it in the clubs. Like that's where the first time a lot of people hear their songs. And even now, with playlisting, you know what I mean? It's kind of the same thing. It's like it's a simplified version of the radio or DJing, but the DJs still play a major part in that, because when something is popping in the streets, they're gonna want to hear it there. But yeah, definitely, it's for me, I want to say that hip hop is the epicenter of the reemergence of Pan Africanism. It's like the only thing that we own they can't take, because they don't really understand it. They can make money off of it, but they can never like as a whole emulate it to its fullest. Even nice white rappers like Eminem and what's the new boy, Jack Harlow. I think Jack Harlow is nice and he makes like good music, but same or Post Malone, right? They make decent sounding tunes, but even no matter how good they are at wordplay, they don't have that same soul. Even someone who's not as technically skilled at rap, it's still going to be more appealing, because they have that black experience, and that's something that can't be taken away from us. So that's why I think hip hop is important to the black community. To the world, people love black culture, but they don't exactly love black people. So that part.
That part.
The Gemini.
Well, I agree with what Pickett Fence and Deuce was saying. It's like you say, for example, rock and roll was, I'll say, was created by by it was black music first. Chuck Berry and uh, Little Richard. You know, uh, what's the movie Cadillac Records? Informed me to that real good. But hip hop is important to the black community because it's something that we put a stamp on actually, and we're able to hold on to it. So we can grow off of that, and it should be historically documented for everybody to learn. So that's important. But to the world, it's just like it's important to the world because it's grown so strong to the world. You got other other cultures doing, or other countries doing their own, hip hop, So basically, it's just growing in the world. That's why it's important to the world. But to the black community, it's very much a something that's something that we should hold on to.
Word up. Pretty Priestess. What say you? Why is hip hop important to the black community?
I think it's vitally important. Like I was talking on the last discussion of it being higher infinite power healing our people, it definitely did. But not only did it just heal our people within itself, I think it kind of healed a lot of other cultures, because today, where we look at a lot of the things that are happening socially in our environment that have been taking place, and a lot of the injustices that are being highlighted at this time, we have a newer generation that's coming in here that's growing up on hip hop. And because hip hop has been able to penetrate different cultures, the perception of the black community, even with some of the negativity that's been out there, has been able to bring the cultures together so that we have so many more individuals that help in standing up against a lot of the injustices that are there. And it dissipates a lot of the fears and a lot of the stereotype mentalities that black people used to hold within other communities. It starts to dissipate because they start to see us in our God consciousness, right? And so now that hip hop is on everybody's radio system, is playing in everybody's clubs, is playing everywhere that you go. it kind of changes our dynamic and how we show up in this world. And even though we know that historically a lot of the things were taken from us in history that we've created, this
Right.
is one of those creations where there's absolutely positively no disputation on where the heart and soul of that lies. And so that makes it that much more powerful within itself.
Word up. Lady Bounce.
I definitely have to say that it's important. I feel like we have given permission for the rest of the world to speak up. So while we, our voice is sometimes muted, as a people, as black people, as poor people, even rap
Mm.
music and hip hop has given us a voice. And because we've used our voice the way we have, I feel like we've given other countries, other cultures, other races permission to speak up and say, hey, this ain't right, or this is what I'm seeing every day. When we talk about the evolution of hip hop, where it started off where it was edutainment, where, Jam Master Jay, Run DMC, they were talking about things that they saw in Hollis, Queens, where they were from. But then you had, the Furious Five come on and they talking about the message. So they talked about what they saw. So one thing that hip hop has done is kind of given us a window into the rest of the world and different cultures, different, city states, because what bops in this state isn't bopping in this state. But being turned on to those struggles that we face as black people, we kind of find out that we're really not that different after all, that we face a lot of the same struggles, we have a lot of the same, wants and desires and joys. So with that, we've spoken up, we've given the rest of the world a chance to speak up and say, hey, if they can do that and they can talk about what's going on in their hood, then I can talk about what's going on in my hood. Like,
Right.
I had no idea until I started listening to like global hip hop that they have like real gangs in London, the same way we have in New York and LA. I had no idea. When we see London on TV, it's all pretty, it's tourists, it's tea and crumpets and everything. I had no idea that they had real live gangs and there were shootouts and there's drugs and all of these other things. So I appreciate hip hop for kind of giving voice to everybody and being that window into the rest of the world.
Word up. Word up. So, we're talking about why is it important to the black community. Um, and it's a touchy subject for some, but I remember coming up and people saying, and even in recent times, people saying that it's only for black people. What will
Mhm.
be your opinion to that? That it's only for black people, and I'll let Lady Bounce you go first with that.
Well, as somebody who grew up in the duality of the white and the black world, I'd have to say, no, it's for everybody. It may be a little bit different when it comes from people of other races or people from other cultures. But I went to an all black high school for 2 years, and then I transferred and went to a school that was predominantly white. And for me, it was a huge shift. And then also growing up in the household that I grew up in, where I wasn't allowed to talk slang in the house, no rap music on Sunday, and even if you did listen to rap music during the rest of the week, you had to keep it turned down. Mama didn't want to hear all that cussing. Daddy certainly didn't want to hear all that cussing. And even though my dad was a DJ and we would introduce him to these songs that he might have to play, he'd be like, the first 10, 15 seconds, okay, that's enough. You can turn that off. So when I got to my second high school and I started running into these white kids who listened to rap music and started taking that on and thinking that they were black, I was like, wait a minute. Like, you can listen to the music, you can appreciate the music and the culture, but I need you to pull your pants up. Your name is Amy. Your name is Mindy. I need you to act like it. So it was really different to kind of see that. I had never seen, white people who wanted to emulate black people and go so hard at it. So I used to be like, you can totally listen to this music and you can totally be down with it without changing who you are at your core. So, for me, for toggling both of those worlds, I was just like, I love hip hop, I love my people, I love my white people. You can listen to it, but just do you at the end of the day. The beginning and the end of the day, just do you.
Duce Tyrell.
I completely agree with everything that Lady Bounce was saying. Basically, we call that now, we call that digital blackface. When they get on the internet, like Whoa Vicky, when they get on the internet and they talk black, they act black. We got the Island Boys, Whoa Vicky, the Catch Me Outside girl, I can't think of her name. Uh, bad, bad behavior, whatever. She spells it weird.
Yeah,
But
her.
like, all right, these people, you got these people, they call that digital blackface, and they'll put on, the black persona. But as soon as something happens, the danger in that is that as soon as something happens, well, just to relate it to hip hop, they use hip hop as a conduit, to like introduce them into that world. A lot of them are artists. Bad Baby has her own, she has videos, she has a lot of streams, a lot of followers and things like that. Well, Vicky has predominantly like black followers. And it's like watching a train wreck. You just can't keep your eyes off of it for the sake of it's happening. Like you just want to know what's going to happen next. But the danger in that is at the end of the day, as soon as something happens or a black life is in danger, they can take off that persona and that non-regional diction will be right back like it never left. And they can call the police, or they can have that white privilege and they can use those white tears. And I hope I'm not getting too far left by saying this, but I think that hip hop is for everybody to consume, but not for everybody to make a lifestyle. For a lot of us, hip hop is a lifestyle. When we leave our 9-to-5 jobs, we are different. Our 9-to-5 is a Clark Kent for the most of us. You know what I mean? And we come home, and hip hop is part how we speak to each other is African American vernacular. A lot of that is in hip hop. That's why we understand it. And there's this lady, sweet lady. I've been friends with her on Facebook for years. She doesn't understand. Her kids listen to it. Older Jewish lady. She's a teacher. And she asks me all the time about hip hop songs because she doesn't understand them because they didn't grow up with AAVE. And code switching is just a way of life for us, especially if we're shifting from the corporate world to home. So for me, again, I think that it is for everyone to consume. It's not for everybody to understand. You just gotta have to kind of stay in your lane. I like certain country songs. I ain't getting that deep into that, into that culture because there's certain things I'm not gonna understand. And most of it is like covert racism, but I'm just gonna end what I was saying right there before I get too far left.
Wait, before you go to the next person, Pickett, I have to say, Juice, I totally agree. When you were talking, it immediately brought to mind the J-Lo and Diddy situation. Remember when J-Lo was dating Diddy? She was so hip hop, she was so black, she was so down. And as soon as the shooting happened in the club, she was like, "No, my name is Jennifer, and I don't know anything about this." She switched on them real quick. She
Really
went from Jenny
fast.
from the block to Jenny on the corner.
Jennifer on the corner, right? And the
Jennifer on
thing
the
about
corner.
that is, this is something I'm not part of this community. I have friends who are part of this community, but they would tell you that there are white and black Latin people. People think that speaking Spanish is like it automatically makes you brown. No, some of them people from Spain. Spain is in Europe, and there's a big difference between J-Lo and what's the girl from Do the Right Thing?
Rosa
Jennifer,
Perez.
yeah, Rosie Perez.
Rosie
Rosie
Perez.
Perez.
There's a clear and stark difference which one of them is Afro-Latino and which one of them is Euro-Latino. It is. You can look at them and tell from the features and everything. I give you a better example. Rosario Dawson, obviously a black woman, right? Or Zoe Saldana, the girl who plays Gamora. They are Afro-Latino. They're just like we are black and speak English. They are black and speak Spanish, or white and speak Spanish. It's the same thing. And a lot of those people, and if you watch Telemundo, they'll tell you everybody up there is lighter skin. Even though we got people like the beautiful Lupita, who's Mexican, but she's black. I'm just saying, people, I think a lot of times, and I'm getting way off tangent, but people confuse culture with their they think you can't be white because you speak a brown language. The language only brown because they conquered all the brown countries. I'm gonna shut up right now. I feel like I'm becoming Dr. Boomer. So I'm just gonna shut it up. before I go too far left. But I can do that all day.
Uh, Pretty Priestess. Is hip hop only for blacks?
Um, I would say absolutely not. It's not made for all blacks. And because of the ability for it to reach the hearts of so many people, that we have to allow it to be expansive. And we do recognize, like, all of the injustices and all of the imbalances that are out here, especially for individuals from the African diaspora, those of us that show up with darker complexions, and the tough hand that we've been dealt in this world. But to say that the hip hop is just exclusively for the black community, I think that it is exclusively our child. For it to be just exclusively for the black community would be a disservice to us, in us being able to advance as a people, is in using this as a tool for us and gaining a lot of the injustices that we haven't been receiving, and being able to use this as a vehicle to kind of leverage our power and to bring everyone together. Like, this can be used as such a greater platform for the greater good at the end of the day. So I definitely think that as a people, we definitely need to make sure that this is expansive. Now, I do have some issues with people that shift shape in different cultures, and that just, it doesn't necessarily speak to, that's an inside job right there, right? That's a spiritual deficiency where you're not able to live your truth. And that's some inside work that we got to do with on our own. It doesn't necessarily mean that, because I have a grandson who's Puerto Rican. I have people in my family that are different races and whatnot. And it's not that they have an ability to just show up and present as something different. Now, some of them, they absolutely can. Let's not even get that twisted. But then on some other levels, foundationally, the black community is where their foundation and their roots are, and that is who they are in essence. And it is unfortunate that we have to code switch and we have to show up. And my daughter and I was having a discussion on how she shows up and she presents herself a little bit differently when she's showing up in the corporate world, as opposed to how she presents and shows up in the real world. That was one of the things that I really didn't struggle too much with, because either you go take me or you're going to leave me alone. But then I also end up in a space, because we have this polarity. Instead of respecting duality in people, we have this great polarity where you can't be black and educated, because then you're seen as this uppity Negro. And then you can't show up and be just this ghetto fabulous person, because then you're starting to see as low class. So like I said, we go back again to where our perception is at, and really focusing and fine tuning that balance piece to where we got to get ourselves adjusted to be a little bit more expansive, instead of just being put all the way in one category and all the way in another, so that we can show up more authentically and being ourselves.
Word up. The Gemini.
Um, I believe hip hop is for everybody. But as far as like as far as what what's her name what the last woman said. I'm sorry, I
Pretty.
can't
Oh,
read the
that's
name.
pretty
I'm
priestess.
I'm sorry. Like what she said in and what lady was saying too. Like you stay in your lane as to the as to how like what the don't try to adapt to what you're listening to. I mean, if it's not you, then don't try to adapt to it. But
Right.
I see it also as like hip hop is like art. You go into an art gallery, and there's art for everybody to see. Well, there's music out there to listen to, but just because you listen to it doesn't mean you have to be like it. but it's for to it's always good to know about different cultures, how we how we learn about different cultures in school. So basically, it's I think it's for everybody. you know I also
Word
see
up.
like I'm sorry, I also see
Go ahead.
like we also have to I go individual myself and ask myself like I love gangster rap, but I can adapt to that, but I still love it. So, but I'm not gonna sit here and act like I'm some kind of you know gangster, whatever. Because I was brought up, in the I was brought up strict. So, but I love the music. I love the music and the lyrics and all that, and so it's it's for everybody. It's just you just have to stay in your lane. That's basically what I said.
Word up. I would definitely agree that it is for everyone. Like Lady Bounce said that I think that it's a problem when you try to Rachel Dozer it and become something else that you're not. Um, People that know me know that my crew is mostly white, but they are white. They don't. They're not imitating. They're not white guys and girls trying to be black guys and girls. They are white guys and girls who love the culture and appreciate the culture. A quick story that me and Lady Bounce always talk about is that um, our white counterparts sometimes have more of appreciation for our culture than we do. I remember us going to see Porgy and Bess, and there were only three other black couples in a whole building to see this incredible black musical. And like Shakesha said, I come from a very multiple cultural family. My family's black, Japanese, Mexican, and white. So yes, and if we look at the foundation of hip hop, those earlier groups had Puerto Ricans, blacks, all in the same group. So it is a culture that was started by blacks and Puerto Latinos. Um, and like Duece Tyrell said, there's a difference between black Latinos and white Latinos. It's the same thing in India. They have white Indians and they have black Indians. And they used to code the Indians in India. We're not talking about Native Americans, talking about the country of India. They used to code the Indians to let them know that you're black Indian, you're white Indian. I remember I had a boss told me, he was a black Indian, but his wife was a white Indian. And they were both from India, from the same town even. But they have several different ethnic groups within India. So there is a difference there. But when we're talking about hip hop, it is a tool that everyone should be able to enjoy. Like the rest of you said, you just stay in your lane. Like I said, my white crew, I know if something happens, they're gonna have my back, just like a brother or sister would have my back. Those are my brothers and sisters. They're gonna have my back. They're not gonna switch up on me like like they talked about earlier. Some people are able to switch in and out of the world. I know a lot of kids that I went to school. I went to school at a predominantly white school in high school, and a lot of those kids loved when skids came out and used jeans, and they were trying to use as much gel as they could to get flat tops like kid for kid and play. But as soon as we got out of high school, their parents sent them off to school. They left all that alone. you know so you can enjoy it without imitating it. You could just like it.
Can I ask a quick question though? Because I mean, being that we, not to just throw it off and everything, but if we're staying in our lane, enjoying it and just liking it, hold on, I lost my train of thought. I'm sorry, but where I was, where I was going is that we have so many children that listen to the music and then they decide that they want to be a gangster, right?
Mhm.
Mhm.
And they decide that they want to, whatever the foolishness is going on that's going on in the songs and everything. Could we take that same energy and apply it within our children that are the ones that are most easily influenced by the negativity within the music?
I definitely think we should. I absolutely think that we should. Um, it's the same thing for me. If you're a white person or someone another ethnicity trying to live in a different shell, I think it's the same as a kid trying to live as a gangster because he's hearing it in the music, and they learn a lot of the stuff in the music and they want to live that life. Like I said earlier, they don't want to live well, they want to live this facade, this fantasy that they're hearing. Not that they're trying to live well, and we need to have education be cool again. For some reason, it's become that being stupid and crazy is the cool thing to do. But you can attain a lot by being educated, and that's not the message that they're getting. That's why I said that, like you said, that all these messages are important, but the problem is we aren't getting the balance of these messages.
Right.
It's just like I was hard body in sports as a kid, and especially in track and field was my main sport. And me and my boy Bonds, we used to push each other to run harder and faster. We trained harder and faster together. If you are youth today and you've had smarts enough that your parents have guiding you in the right way, you should be able to push your friend and say, "Hey, no, that's not the way too." But a lot of these kids are scared to step up and make a stance on being smart. You kind of shunned if you're a smart kid, and we have to, as a community, somehow come together and say, "Yo, being smart is what's dope."
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. I agree. And I think that we kind of bring that a little further along as we grow up, because we still kind of hold on to that mentality. It just looks a little bit different now, you know? So instead of us deciding that we don't, we're not going to associate with the gangsters, we still have an all or nothing type of mentality when it comes to the music that we listen to and how we operate. So I was just, noticing. I'm a criminologist. I'm sorry. So I'm just always like spinning deviant behavior in my head and how we can kind of remedy it. So just, but yeah, let's go to the next question.
Well, I definitely agree, and like you said, you're a criminologist in your head. For me, as an educator, I'm always doing the same exact thing, and it's one of those things that as much as I try to turn it off, I can't. When I see commercials on TV, I'm over analyzing the commercial. Like, what message is this sending? Like, there's a macaroni and cheese commercial where the mom is chasing the daughter around the house with the broccoli, and the daughter won't eat the broccoli, and then they show them all sitting down having dinner as a family, and the kid is eating macaroni and cheese when everybody else is, they got the vegetables on their plate, and then the commercial ends by saying, "Thank you, Kraft mac and cheese, for the win." Well, what did we win? Because she's still not eating her
I
vegetables.
saw that commercial. Yes.
So, but in my head though, I'm over analyzing, like, no, that's not the message that I want, kids to receive. Like, my kids eat every vegetable known to man because they were never given an option not to. They weren't ever given the option to not like your broccoli or not like your green beans. This is dinner, and you either eat or you starve. So we never had to do those, do the airplane and all these crazy tactics to get our kids to eat right. So I think that goes back to Picket Fence's point. We as parents or leaders in our community, we have to make sure that we're always giving the knowledge even when the kids don't want it. We got to make sure that we're always taking care of them and taking care of their minds. These kids, for lack of a better term, they're stupid. They don't know any better. They depend on us as adults to know better, to show them better. And even though I listened to gangster rap as a teenager, my mom and dad was very, very adamant that, like, okay, you listen to Dr. Dre, don't let Dr. Dre get your butt whooped. You better get your homework done. So there was never, like, I never had to worry about finding a balance because my mom and dad let me know that there is no balance to be had. Like, you listen to that and that's fine. You like that and that's wonderful. But your math homework over here is way better than that beat. And of course, for those who grew up in a black household, if you ever sang a song around your mom or your grandma, the first thing they say is, "I hope you know your reading like you know them rap lyrics." And it never occurred to me until I got older exactly what that meant. Because I'm like, well, of course I know the rap song. I listen to it 100 times a day. But do I know how to read as well as listen to these rap lyrics? So we have to make sure that we are creating a balance, maintaining a balance, and letting our kids know what's what. Because even though kids, they tend to, I don't want to hear that, I don't want to listen. Deep down, they really do want discipline. They really do want to be told no. They want to be corrected for their behavior. And in some cases, for that kid who is afraid to pull their friend along, us parents can be that buffer by saying, well, I don't care what they're doing in his house. In this house, this is what we do. So that kind of gives your kid a little bit of a save to not have to be, not to have to stand up to their friends, so to speak, because then they can blame and say, well, I got to go in and do my homework because my mama said so. Because that peer pressure, it is hard for a kid to look at their peer and go, hey, let's go study instead of going to go rob this store right quick. That's very hard to do, for kids. So as adults, if we maintain the pressure and we maintain the standard, those kids will eventually fall in line. Not all of them, but a
Right.
good portion of them. If you start with the kids that you have influence over, then that's a start. We have a responsibility to do that. But I have found in running into the parents that I work with and I deal with now, these parents are trying to live their lives through their kids. And I'm
Right.
like, no, sis, you're 40. It's time to put that away. You have a child now. Like your whole purpose, your whole mind state should be focused on rendering this child so that they can be a productive adult. And whatever that looks like for them. Nobody's saying you have to be in corporate America or you have to go be president, but whatever it looks like for your kid to be productive in this world that is going to do everything in its power to make sure you're not productive, we got to get on board. We got to get ourselves together. I believe that hip hop music could definitely influence that. As we talked about last week, as these rappers start to grow up, I want their lyrics to grow up. I want them to realize the power that they have in their words and grow up a little bit.
Word
Absolutely.
up. And you were saying about parents being a buffering. I think that we have to go further than just being a buffering and saying, intervening with just your kid. I think as parents, we have to know our kids' friends too, and be
Mm-hmm.
a parent to that kid also. I know that's one thing that is falling apart especially in the black community, is that every kid's mother was your mother also. Most cases you call your friends mom or mama or mommy or variation of that, and
Mm-hmm.
you spent time at their house and they spent time at your house. And nowadays though, a lot of these parents are like, you can't talk to my kid, you got a problem with my kid, you talk to me. We don't have a sense of child rearing together as a community. Back in the day, the stories you used to hear from your grandmother or even your mother, like, if you got in trouble down the street by Miss Brown, when you get home, you getting a butt whipping here too. We don't have that, and I don't know if we can get it back. I just think that we have to have some type of closeness to that. Maybe not beating the kid down the street, but a conversation with the kid down the street, and and guide the all the kids together.
Mm.
It definitely takes a village.
Absolutely.
It takes a village.
Absolutely. Absolutely, because a lot of us, and I'm glad that in this discussion that we're having, that we're not really trying to pin the responsibility on the artist per se, because so many of those individuals, they're kind of spiritually bankrupt and immature, and they don't really, a lot of times, they really don't have the mental capacity to really solve a lot of the major problems that's going on, not alone in this world, but in their lives. And exactly. So, I mean, do we really have the right to place that obligation and responsibility on those artists when we know that the responsibility is ours to try to work as a community to build our kids up so that they don't get into all of these negative behaviors? But what we tend to do is we'll beat up a lot of the artists because we get this airplay instead of approaching, like here in Pittsburgh, we have a radio station, unfortunately, that would play that WAP song on the live radio. This is one of the only black stations within Pittsburgh that 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 is targeted towards the black audience. And for them to play this song repeatedly on the radio, just because you eliminated the direct curse words, we still understand what the song is about. But what we do is we get mad at Cardi B and Meg Thee Stallion for putting a song out and not really shifting our responsibility to the parents that's allowing this to play, the radio stations that are allowing this to be played on the air when none of the other radio stations is allowing this to go past. Like, where is that responsibility at? And I think that this right here, with us dealing with hip hop, because it reaches so many different generations, is a really important discussion for us to have on how do we build ourselves up with hip hop and using that as a tool, and where the true responsibility lies.
I definitely agree. I actually taught summer school this summer, and WAP was the song of the summer. So I was at one of the houses where I service the kids at, and it comes on the radio, and the mom turns it up. She's dancing to it and twerking to it. But then when her 7-year-old daughter began to sing it, she hit her so hard that I had to reach out and go, no. Because for one, I didn't want to be a witness to child abuse. Secondly, how dare you? How dare you hit her for emulating your behavior? She wasn't emulating Cardi B and Meg Thee Stallion. She's emulating your behavior. So if you want to see better out of your child, then you got to do better yourself. I'm not saying, mom, you can't like the song, you can't listen to the song, but you can't get mad if you're sitting here shaking and gyrating and your daughter is watching you and she's doing the same thing. Because Absolutely. Our daughters and our sons, they want to be like us.
Right.
So, like you said, we have that responsibility. Cardi B is making the music that pays her. Lil Baby is making the music that pays him, and it's what the record companies are telling them to make, or making it so that they can make it. So they have some responsibility, to be a little more responsible in their lyrics. But at the beginning and the end of the day, when it comes to listening and explaining these songs, that responsibility falls on us as the parents or as the adults, in their lives.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So I got a question, because this is something that, it's been in the news a lot. We've seen, the murders of Black men publicly on TV. We've seen injustices done as a result of these, these killings and things like that. And a lot of the people who commentate on it say it's because of our music. So our music, we're animals, and we sing about being animals, and we have this animalistic behavior. So how do we reclaim our personhood through hip hop?
Duece Tyrell, I'll let you go first on that one.
Since, to the people who say that, since when does life imitate art? Art imitates life. A lot of these people, they're not directly doing the stuff that they say that they're doing, but it's people around them. They're telling stories from things that they've heard or things that they've experienced or been around. So art imitates life. It's not our music that's causing the violence. The world is violent. They say that we're the most violent people. What was Christopher Columbus playing when he came over here to slaughter all them Indians? What was he bumping? Dr. Dre? Like, what kind of hip hop was he listening to? All the violence we learn from them. Period. All this stuff is learned. It's even down to hitting the kids. That's slave treatment. They don't discipline their children that way, and if they do, it's not as severe. It's all that stuff is learned. You know what I'm saying? In my opinion, I think that's trash. It's BS, because you have school shooters who don't listen to hip hop, don't care about hip hop. All these people who do these mass bombings and stuff, they're like literal white supremacists. A lot of them, some of them just crazy, but they be listening to like, and not to pick, not to. I'm not taking a shot at Marilyn Manson, but I was in high school when, or I was in middle school rather when Columbine happened, and I remember that. And they were saying how the boys were listening to Marilyn Manson and stuff. They were blaming Marilyn, they were blaming Eminem, and all this stuff, all this non-black music. We ain't never done nothing like that. We don't do stuff like that, so they can't shift that on us. It's just blame shifting. It's getting away from the real problem that America is just violent, and everybody knows that, and that's just period. Canada's not even half as violent as America is. Usually, when
No.
somebody gets killed or shot in Canada, like even a big city like Toronto, somebody from Detroit, them guys that killed Drake, they killed Drake's homeboy, the boys were from Detroit. You know what I'm saying? So like, it's not even it's not that hip hop is violent. Art imitates life, but we know the difference. It's just like watching a movie. You can't tell me you can go and watch Arnold Schwarzenegger kill 1,000 people or John Wick literally shoot like 99 people in the head and tell me they don't have no type of psychological effect on you. That you're watching these realistic depictions of people of violence all the time. They even show it on TV, but they can't say the F word. You feel me? It's crazy. Like it's weird, and it's a very American thing. And again, it's blame shifting, trying to shift it back on us, trying to demonize us again for some stuff that it's not even really our fault. We're living the realities that they ultimately created, and I'm gonna stop going there, but I'm sorry because that's where the root of it all is. Point blank and period. That was the foundation of this country. So, your roots are always going to be traced back to that trauma that we have, and we have generational trauma from that, and that's what causes people to act out. And you ain't got to go as far as slavery. Jim Crow ended in the 70s. So, like, well, the late 60s, but still, I'm just saying, like, that was not that long ago. It was only a generation ago. Somebody who was born in 1970 is only 50 now, very alive and well. My dad, my mom, they lived through that, very alive and well. So you can't tell me that now the grandchildren of the people don't have any, like, and how they affect and how violence in this country does not affect us at all. And it's hip hop music. No, no. Yeah, to me, I don't believe that at all whatsoever. It's not the same thing. It's just like I play video games all the time. What I want to go do, shoot somebody like Call of Duty? No, and that's way more immersive than hip hop. I'm sorry, I said my piece.
Word up. The Gemini.
Lady Bounce, could you say that question again?
How do we reclaim our personhood through hip hop? Because they use hip hop as a reason why they kill us because we're violent.
Okay, well, I'm gonna start with saying what Jay Z said on what did he say on that soundtrack? The American Gangster. He said Scarface the movie did more than Scarface the rapper. And I believe that the reason the reason of all that, like, that is just another plan of trying to destroy the hip hop. Since, like earlier what we talked about, like, hip hop is important in the black community, that we have our hands on it and we have it on lock. So it's just another way to try to destroy it, or try to, what you call contaminated it or whatever. So, but I think, like, we should reach more out into the streets, or attend maybe more, I say, like, city halls and meetings and stuff, to try to get into the community and um, branch out through there, so we can reach the people that, hey, that grew up in a different way. Like, maybe they didn't have their father, maybe they didn't have their mother, and are, as the government sees them as a target to have the outcome of a murder or whatever that they see in them, and say, hey, there's a, we can influence them and reroute their direction. That's how we see, if we can, how we can counter that. So
Word up. Word up. I agree with that. And Duece Tyrell. I mean, You're talking about a country that was founded on violence and has been violent since before it was even a country. As soon as people started coming over here, it's always been a violent country. You're talking about from the Pilgrims to slave traders, CoPro and Tail, Ronald Reagan in California, being the governor in California. I mean, the crack epidemic. It's a country that has not only founded on violence, but is fueled by violence, and an economy grows because of violence. So you can't blame us for that. Like Duce said, we are is the old saying is life imitating art or art imitating life. It's a violent world. I think if we gain more control of our culture and start bringing balance to it, we don't have to worry about what the outside world is saying. Like KRS One used to say back in the day, hip hop could be its own secret society if we really get a grasp on it before it's too late. The Pretty Priestess, what do you say?
I'm gonna go in and agree with the brother Duece Tyrell and the Gemini and you as well, with what you guys were saying. But this whole thing about life imitating art or art imitating life, I can definitely argue both sides of it because, like we said, we got roots and foundation of injustice and corruption within this country, right? So now we see that perhaps there's an agenda here that the artists that are continuing to ignite the flame of violence and injustice within this world and creating this image that Black people are violent and that this criminal lifestyle is the way to go. Like, these are the cats that's getting rewarded. And these are the people that are holding the purse strings at the end of the day. So they kind of control the direction of the media and the way that the music is going. So if they start putting out money for people to put out love ballads, for love and empowerment music and all of that type of fellowshipping and everything, then everybody would be scrambling to write songs about that. But what's paying is the degeneration, not the generation, but degeneration within our society. So then I'm thinking at this particular point, maybe they want art to imitate a life that they're trying to say that we're living, you know? And so if they can get there, because I watch Fox News because I need the truth in the news, not because I agree with what these people say, but this is how they're thinking, right? And so when you sitting there and you're watching them and they're talking about how our music is prepaid, who's paying these people that's putting this music out here? So we got to really be a little bit more mindful in how we advance with that, is to stop allowing them to be the only people that pay us for our talent. If we start taking control, because Black Power just ain't about us getting out here protesting and showing our fists. We know about COINTELPRO. We know about the history, the Jim Crow. And just what was that? We watched a man whose neck got kneeled on, right? For what, 8-9 minutes damn near. You know why? We all sat there with the gas face, right? Watching it happen. So it's not like we're not immune to the injustice and the insensitivity that's going on within this world. What we need to start doing is taking that knowledge that we have and start becoming more empowered, because now we have more Black people, more people of color that are holding wealth, that are in positions of power. We have, like I was saying before, we have platforms like the internet where we can start building our support ourselves within our people and start trying to figure out ways that we can get true talent paid without having to go through all of these crooks that's out here and all of these demons that's out here that's encouraging us to connect to our lower selves. If we do away with them and stop allowing them to control our culture, to control the thought process on what the Black community looks like, or we gonna come out a whole lot stronger when we do that. But we got to take control. It's when we stand up. That's when it happens. Because right now, unfortunately, they're kind of controlling our art by saying that this is how they live. So let's kill them. And this is what justifies it. And this is why you get no justice, because we are going to make sure that the people that keeps that whole portrayal are still getting paid. It's unfortunate, but this is, in my opinion, we do know that this is a violent world that we live in and how we learned it and everything. But there's also a purse to make sure we keep that mentality going.
Word up. Word up. Lady Bounce.
When I was just thinking, um, when it comes to that, I think what we've said before about artists growing up in their lyrics will start to show another picture to the world of who we are as Black people, as people of color, so we don't keep getting lumped into the same category. I I know every time I go to like my favorite drive-through, I feel like I have to go above and beyond to code switch to show them that I'm not like the Black people that you just waited on with the weed blowing out the car and the super ignorant, rap lyrics blasting. I'm tired of every time I go in the store that I have to go above and beyond to separate myself from my people who carry that negative image around, that they use to justify why they do what they do to us. Sandra Bland wasn't doing anything illegal. George Floyd wasn't doing anything illegal, but they were able to use our music as a reason. Oh, these people are just animals. So when I go places, I'm really tired of having to go above and beyond to be like, I'm not like them, which is wrong because then I feel like I'm turning my back on my people in a way because I'm doing everything I can to separate myself from them in a way that they act. So when it comes to us, claiming our personhood back, I just really think that we need to do more um as consumers of rap music to show that this is just music. This is not our way of life. We have to stop listening to these lyrics and taking it and trying to live these lyrics. Now, that kind of behavior is expected out of children because their brains aren't fully developed to know the difference. That's what they have us for. But if we are acting just as though our brains are not fully developed and we're trying to emulate the same lifestyles, then our poor children don't have anybody to look to show them the real. So we definitely have to, put on our grown man and women panties and start living different, showing different, and showing that it is just music, it's just entertainment. I can listen to somebody, talking about selling drugs and being on the corner. That don't mean I gotta go out there and do it. Dr. Dre said the same thing in Rhyme and Reason that, you know, people talk about killing somebody on a record, but ain't nobody really gonna go out there and do it. But now these rappers are going out there and doing it. We've had 5 rappers killed in the last 3 or 4 months over nothing stuff. Then a comedian made a joke about young Dolph getting killed and somebody killed him. Like, come on, man. Like, at some point, we as Black people got to get tired and say, okay, no more. Like, there's that meme that floats around on social media, the game board, and says, if we all stand up, then it's game over. So we got to start standing up.
Yeah, we do. And tapping in what Pretty Priestess said is we have to also not only stand up, but think about what she said was who's paying for all this? Because I saw a video, you could look it up on YouTube with Method Man. It was like, financially, I'm good. My family is good. My grandkids are going to be good. But isn't anybody curious to how these guys have so much money? Because if you live like in a small town and we live in Dayton, I know Pittsburgh is a bigger city than Dayton, but all these little small towns like a Dayton, and towns like that, a lot of these guys come and do shows for like $600-700, which is nothing for a performance. Some of them may be like 1,200 at a small club, and that's not that much money. So where is all the extra money coming from? So we have to think about that. We have to think about saying no more. We have to think about making education cool. We have to think about where is this coming from? Who is in control of the programming? As I always say, who's in control of the programming? And how do we reprogram ourselves? So this week's self-care assignment is going to be to do something positive for hip hop. You decide what that is. Promote a positive artist, mentor a kid, teach a kid that wants to know about production, teach them about production. Um, just post a positive image of hip hop. Make do something to make education cool. Because like I said in the beginning, most Def said hip hop is going to be where the people are at. You know, we're peeled out right now in all the music, so hip hop is peeled out. So that's going to be the self care assignment. And before we get into my favorite part of the show, no, we'll get into my favorite part of the show, and then we'll wrap it up. So my favorite part of the show, as most of you know, is doom 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 brain science, science, science.
All right, so this week, our brain science 6 reasons why listening to hip hop and rap is the best thing you can do for your self development. So, we always like to talk about the negative aspects of hip hop. Let me throw some positives at you. There's something to be said about the cathartic power of getting in your car, rolling the windows up, and blasting your favorite tune while driving down the highway. No worries about uppity neighbors or missing someone shouting your name, just you and the music, the healing power of the bass and the lyrics. More than that, the effect that certain music and genres play in your life cannot be understated. Certain music brings back memories and teleports you to a time in your past where you heard that song and you associate it with a certain experience and the friends you were with. So, hip hop music, it brings catharsis. Much to the chagrin of many who bemoan the flashy themes of many hip hop artists, it has been shown that listening to rap music that projects rags to riches type stories can have a positive mental effect on its listeners. A study conducted at Cambridge University said that a great deal of rap music with its rags to riches narrative trajectories displays a positive visual imagery. So basically, what that's saying is, as you're listening to their rags to riches story, it's giving your imagination time to play around and come up with your own rags to riches story. Rap is more than merely a celebration of material excess and success, but rather a cathartic release for the artist and the listener. Rap teaches you to know your worth. Humble and rap are two words that are diametrically opposed. Rappers like to use their verses to tell others how great they are. That is part of the genre, and I definitely appreciate that. It can teach listeners a thing or two about knowing your value. It has reminded us that we have immense value to offer in many facets of our lives, businesses, and that sometimes you need to let it loose on the rest of the world. Hmm. It teaches you to be thankful. A central theme of rap music is the journey and embracing the past. Most hip hop music focuses on the past and experiences therein as a means to empower the rapper himself, as those experiences are ups and downs, and that make that rapper unique. Along the same lines, being thankful for your experiences, both good and bad, that happen to you past and present, can provide you with a big boost to your own thought power. I encourage you to not only listen to hip hop that reflects on the past and expresses gratitude toward it, but also to engage in daily or weekly gratitude journaling or mindfulness. It can do wonders for you, which is something we talk about on our show a lot, is journaling and being mindful. Be authentic. Rappers are unapologetically themselves and are not afraid to express themselves to the fullest. They have no shame towards who they are and they embrace any haters who disagree with their lifestyle. Rappers tend to laud the fact that they keep it real, and most love that. Whether they actually do so 24/7 or sometimes waver, like we all do, rappers embrace who they are at their core and they let their lyrics speak for themselves. Hold on, let me switch that picture. All right, so always be learning. Despite rappers' tendencies to boast about their accomplishments and self worth, they also tend to really stress the fact that they are masters of their craft and are always practicing and pushing it forward. No matter what level of successes you have achieved, there's always room to continue educating yourself. That is a choice you can make. It is your choice to allow yourself to plateau or to continue learning. Embrace the journey. Rappers embrace the grind. They embrace the game. They embrace the cards they've been dealt. Listening to hip hop has reinvigorated faith in the journey that one must have that you are on the right path. I am a big believer in manifestation of what you ask for. If you embrace the direction of life that the universe has provided for you and you continue to strive for the best version of every aspect of yourself, I am confident that the universe will provide. Hip hop similarly reflects on this idea of hard work and manifestation. Years of grind and practice ultimately deliver you to what you deserve. Along the way, you will be faced with both blessings and triumphs, but ultimately, if you stay true to yourself and trust the process, you will arrive just where you need to be. Word up.
Word up, word up, word up. That was very good. I loved it. My mic was muted. I don't know what happened, but dope. That was dope. I love that brain science. Really dope. Before we get out of here, we want to make sure that everybody that's on the panel tell the people how they could get up with you. Starting with the pretty priestess, tell them what you do and how they can get in touch with you.
Hey, I am the pretty priestess. I'm a divine priestess. I am a intuitive, a sensitive, and a clairvoyant. I host the Pretty Priestess podcast where we focus on taking a mystical approach and empowering our self-image through emotional intelligence, self-love, care, and acceptance, which is why the Fly With Us podcast is special in my heart. I can be reached at prettypriestess.com. My whole cipher and conversation is right there. And you can hit me directly at prettypriestess@icloud.com. Peace.
Word up. Duece Tyrell.
What's going on, y'all? Duece Tyrell. I am a producer, artist, engineer. Also, you can check me out at Duece Tyrell on all social media. That's literally everything. And if for booking, you email 4phones, the number 4phones, bookings at gmail.com.
The Gemini.
The Gemini. I am a artist, producer, and I am a host of two podcasts. One of them is Gem City Syndicate, me and Black Friday. You can find us on Gmail if you want to reach us. That's Gem City Syndicate at Gmail. And then I hold my own podcast, City of Gem podcast. Has two segments where I play. It's called Digging in the Crates, and I play rare, good music from the 70s and 80s, any type of genre. And this another segment I have is called Album Spotlight, where I have any local artists from Dayton area, whoever it might be, one of my friends, they might be somebody in a different field or something. They we come in and talk about an album that they picked from the 70s and 80s, and we just talk about it for like 45 minutes. But if you want to reach me on that, I'm on SoundCloud. If you want to listen to any past episodes, they are it is City of Gem on SoundCloud. Then it's City of Gem at gmail.com. I'm also on Facebook and Instagram. City of Gem on Instagram, one word, and then City of Gem podcast on Facebook.
Word up, word up. And as always, you can find us anywhere you find your favorite podcast. As far as the socials, we're on Facebook, IG, Twitter, and TikTok. So please like, comment, share, subscribe. Like I said, we're on YouTube, so make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel. It's your boy Picket Fence.
I'm your girl, Lady Bounce.
We out of here. Peace.
Peace.